hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome back to another episode of Our Girls Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, and I'm with Hayley Skimora, and today we're excited to welcome someone who's making a serious impact both in and beyond the game. Many of you will know her name. Blake Bolden is joining us, and she is a trailblazer in hockey, a champion of access, a force of good wherever the game is played, from NHL arenas to the streets of Ghana. And Blake has worn many hats: professional player, scout, broadcaster, mentor, podcast guest, now global hockey ambassador through her work with the LA Kings and her involvement with programs like Bladers Skate Ghana. Today, we're going to dig into her journey, her passion for growing the game around the world, and what it takes to break down barriers in hockey, not just for underrepresented communities, but for everyone who deserves a shot. Blake, welcome to Our Girls Play Hockey.
Yo, what an intro.
We've been doing the show for a minute, Blake. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really excited to be here.
No, we're excited to have you as well, Blake. And I think, look, the consummate starting point for any show is your story in hockey, right? It's incredible, from player to scout to ambassador. Why don't you give us the highlight reel of how you got from the rink to where you are today, and how that led to your passion of making the game more accessible. Remember, the show's only an hour. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I'm 34 years old. I started when I was 6. I found the game of hockey just by following a professional team back in the day called the Cleveland Lumberjacks. We used to play out of the Gund Arena. And my dad, or my mom's boyfriend at the time, would just bring me to the games. He was security. The mascot came to my 10th birthday party. And I was like, this is the best sport in the world. I'm dialed. And I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, played boys hockey till I was 14, went to prep school, went to BC, played on the national team a little bit, won some world championships, and then played pro with my girl Hayley, especially in Buffalo, where we just had the most fun. Right, Hales?
It was honestly one of my favorite times in hockey was with the Buffalo Buttes. Like, we just had a great group. We had incredible support from the community and from the Sabres organization. It was just, we had the best time.
We had electronic billboards. Like, we were feeling ourselves back in It was unreal. And then, I moved out to Southern California following my now husband. And I met Luke Robitaille in a tunnel, and we had this awesome conversation. And he was like, have you ever thought about being a scout? And I was like, no, I didn't even know that was a thing. And so, like, 6 months after that, I met Rob Blake. I met everybody in Hockey Ops, and they're like, okay, you know what you're talking about? I'm like, yeah, I'm a 4-time All-Star, All-American, like, world champion. I know what I'm talking about. And I was a scout for the Kings for 4 years. And then I decided I want to get out in the community. Los Angeles is such a vibrant city with so much diversity, and I want to help grow the game. So I became an ambassador and just a representative of growth and inclusion specialist with the LA Kings, where I run all of these amazing programs still to this day. And I got a phone call from ESPN and the NHL, and they're like, hey, do you want to do broadcasting? I was like, I have no idea. Yes. So really my career is all about just saying yes and pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And then in the interim, trying to figure out how to make memories like the ones I had when I was 6 years old.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. It doesn't surprise me. You're such like a passionate person, and it really shows in everything that you do, truly. What like initiatives did you start with the LA Kings that maybe they were like lacking before you got there?
Ooh, well, I will say that the LA Kings don't lack in anything, especially with the community. I mean, they go full tilt. Their fans are just die hard. So it was really easy for me to integrate myself into the community. I started what's now called Bolden Girls, which is a group of like 6 to like 8-year-old girls. Throughout the summer, we have a weekly program. We have a We Are All Kings group that's pretty much this overarching group with different organizations and nonprofits like 24 Degrees of Color and Empower Her, and all of these different pockets of girls who are girls and boys that are of non-traditional hockey backgrounds. And we support them with equipment, just getting on the ice, building their skills, mentorship. What else? We have Black, Silver, and Bold for the elite kids that play AA and AAA. So kids like me, when I was growing up playing AAA boys hockey, I didn't really know an avenue and a pathway to take. My parents were just like, I don't know where we're supposed to go. I guess we'll go to prep school. And so I'm there as a mentor. I bring in awesome like people and colleagues that I've met throughout my path, like Anson Carter and George LaRock, and they get like just these amazing breadcrumbs and nuggets. So I just try to just spread the wealth as much as possible. And the Kings have been so gracious in allowing me to just be myself and do what I love.
You got some amazing names in there. Did you say red, white, and bold? That's awesome. I
Yeah.
love it. You know,
It's amazing. I didn't even come up with these names. They did. They're like black, silver, and bold, Bolden girls. Like, it's great.
you've got a cool last name that helps with that too. You know, I'm going to skip ahead here to this question because it's kind of relevant to what you said. You just mentioned so many great initiatives. You know, one of the things we talk about on this show all the time is how stupidly expensive ice hockey is. And I think, you know, in that conversation, sometimes, you know, we all kind of commiserate over it. But one of the things we don't talk about enough is how that's keeping people from playing the game. It's now become a major barrier. And look, Learn to Play and some of those organizations have done a great job of breaking the entry point.
Yeah.
But you go from a $200 Learn to Play to a $2,000 club team, and we lose so many kids because of that. So, you know, you mentioned some of those creative partnerships. You know, what's happening in them to move that needle, really focusing on access and affordability, because it's a problem.
Yeah, it is. It is a problem, and I think our LA Kings Foundation, which is run by Jen Pope and all of the awesome people at the LA Kings, they give out like a lot of money. So this isn't as daunting of a task to stay in the sport as you just mentioned. $50,000 to certain organizations and programs to help hundreds of kids just kind of reuse and recycle. We have a partnership with Play It Again Sports, which is actually one of my sponsors, and where I got my first set of ice hockey equipment back in Twinsburg, Ohio. You know, we have an equipment drop-off spot at a lot of the LA Kings ASAC rinks, and that is kind of how we utilize that just cyclical. Okay, I grow out of this. Okay, now who's the next person up that can fit into this? And also just giving you that first set of equipment so it just keeps cycling through. And then after that, it's kind of like hope they love the sport enough to continue to play. And if they do really need financial support, we're ones to come to, and we usually figure it out. I remember there was this one kid who got their equipment stolen out of their car, and one of the kids reached out to me, or one of the just like I think it was like an ice girl, you know, like the cheerleaders in the rink. She was like, "Oh, Blake, this happened." Da, 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 da. And I was just like, "We got to figure something out." And so Pure Hockey and Warrior hooked it up, and we've just got really, really good partnerships within our ecosystem in LA.
Wait, Blake, are you telling me that if a kid buys a fly light, skate, stick, and all, are you telling me that kid with the $400 stick that doesn't matter? That the used equipment is just fine? Is that what you're trying to say to the kids?
I'm saying used equipment is sometimes better than the brand new equipment. That's what I'm saying.
We always say that the player makes the stick doesn't make the player. And I love that you brought up Play It Again Sports. That was something Hayley wanted to talk about too, is that, look, go play, period. Right? You make the gear look great. It's not the other way around.
Yeah. I had a Sherwood 100 Flex wood stick.
Me too.
I didn't even know what Flex was back in the day, but I think I turned out okay. I didn't have like the composite Z bubble, like whatever synergy. I had that stiff old shaft, and I made it work.
Maybe that's how you got that hardest slap shot, Blake.
Yeah,
exactly.
Funny enough, my dad always had me get Warrior 100 flexes. He thought it would help, and I was like 13. I'm like, I don't think this is how it works.
No,
that's such a thing.
But it worked out.
It worked out. Hey, you're an Olympian now. Thanks, Dad.
I'm going to say it again. There's a whole generation of hockey players grew up on a 53rd Sherwood Paul coffee stick, and a lot of them made it. So, sorry, go ahead, Hayley.
No, that was really all I had on that topic. Yeah.
No, fair enough. Well, let me keep going here. You know, you mentioned Play It Again Sports, right? And the partnerships there. It's something a lot of our listeners probably rely on. tell us a little more about how that secondhand gear shaped your journey, and what that means to give access to families today. Again, we're making kind of fun of it, but like, let's talk about it seriously for a minute, because again, we talked about accessibility, right? And again, for the broader audience here, sometimes I really am going to say it, audience, I don't think we realize as a hockey community the barriers that we set up. And in some communities, Played Against Sports is a hockey store, and others, I guarantee you this listener is going, Played Against Sports doesn't do hockey. They do quite a bit.
Yeah. And I live in Southern California, and I have to I call ahead just so I can know, hey, is there a Played Against Sports that sells hockey equipment? But there is.
Yeah.
There are Played Against Sports that sell hockey equipment. Like I said, back in when I was 6 years old, I remember looking over to my mom's boyfriend in the car and being like, I want to play ice hockey. And he was overjoyed. I don't even think I asked my mother if it was okay. We drove straight to Played Against Sports. And I got fitted. I still have my first pair of skates. I still have my first pair of gloves. Like, mom has it in this cute little shadow box. It's amazing. But if I did not have Played Against Sports, I don't think I would have been able to play hockey and be able to fall in love with the game the way that I had. I don't think it would have been possible for my single mother parent. Just the amount of traveling that had to be done, the hotels, the fees to play on a team. Nowadays it's like $5,000 at the highest level. It's okay to use, secondhand, and it's also good for the environment. It's good for the earth. It's good for just everything. There's no shame. And now sticks are so good, you're not going to have to use a coffee Sherwood wood stick.
Right. We should make all kids use that stick. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It should be a rule that until you're 12, you have to use a wooden stick. That would be fun.
Be a freaking rule. That would be amazing. I do think that Played Against Sports, while some people might joke about, that whole niche, I think it's a really important gap that it bridges between kids and playing all sports. Like, I've walked in there and bought a frisbee, soccer ball, golf pants, ski gear, like everything you can really think of, you can get there. Yeah. Especially if we're talking about hockey, where sticks are hundreds of dollars. Like, I just looked at a like Warrior Novium 2, and it's like $250 intermediate. It's nuts.
It is nuts.
But shout out to Warrior, they're dope though.
It just brings up again the broader point that look, there's a barrier. So from a hockey growth standpoint, it begs the question, are we actually growing the sport by keeping certain athletes out of the sport, right? That's something we've got to think about. And then the other thing too is just the cost associated. And we'll get off the topic in a second, but I tell parents all the time when their kids are growing, like, it's very possible you could go through 3 pairs of skates in 1 year if your kid's hitting a growth spurt, and you do not need new skates 3 times. And like you said earlier in the episode, Blake, it's like sometimes the broken in stuff is actually better because it's ready to go. I know my son is a goaltender. I don't buy him new leg pads. We get used leg pads, and I don't think I've found a set of used leg pads that have gone more than 1 season because everyone's growing out of it so fast. He's only 11 years old. There'll be a time down the line if he wants to explore the new side of things, maybe we will do that. But I just think everybody's quick to go to the store to get the new stuff. Not there's anything wrong with the new stuff, but there's like peer pressure about looking good. And it's just, when I grew up, that just wasn't a thing. Like, it wasn't, like, nobody teased me for my stick growing up. That's a fairly new thing.
I'll tell you a funny story. When I first got a composite, I believe it was a Synergy. It was the Silver Easton Synergy. Yep. And I got it in the mail because I had the wood 2 pieces before, or the whatever I had before, but it was a 2-piece, and you like heat up the glue and you stuck it in and everything. But this was just one Synergy, beautiful. Do you know, I took it out of the box because I was so excited, and I was like, ooh, look at this, flex, 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 snapped it. My first Synergy composite stick ever, I snapped it in half, and I told my parents that it came broken.
Oh, wow. They got that 30-day guarantee back then. It's just what, 2005, 2004. Used to break them on day 29, but you know what I remember about those?
You
couldn't feel
too strong.
I remember not being able to feel the puck with those early composites. They did perfect that technology eventually, right?
They did.
But we'll have a whole equipment conversation about our preferences later on. Haley, I'll throw it to you for another question.
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about the work you're doing, with the Blader Skate Ghana program, how you got involved with them, how that all started. Like, it's just so incredible what you've been able to do with them in such a short amount of time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The work just, it feels like the work isn't even like done or close to being done. I got reached out to Blader Skates Gone. A lot of people reach out to me for help on social media, and I do my best to give everybody the light and love and attention. But this organization, to me, just their hustle and grind, just behind closed doors. I saw them carving out sticks with like wood on their socials, and they reached out to me probably 3 years ago and were like, "Hey Blake, we just need sticks. Like, we don't really know what direction to go. We really love hockey. They don't just do hockey; they do crazy tricks with like their blades and their skateboards. That's why it's called Blader Skates, and it's not just the hockey program, but." There's this awesome program in Ghana in 3 different cities, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Accra, if I'm saying it correctly. And they meet up every Saturday. They have ages 2 through like 35 as their senior coach. And they just needed support. So I helped them with their website. I was like, what else do you need? I reached out to Warrior. Warrior was like, this is perfect for our breakthrough campaign, and we'll send you the sticks. We'll send you even equipment so we can get it shipped out to Ghana. So I've been able to kind of connect with Warrior to be able to do that. That's why I'm like, shout out to Warrior, because there's not a lot of, brands that would be willing to do that because we are talking about fresh new sticks. I got the Novium 2s. I got the QR 6s. I got, the old school Warriors, the colorful ones too, that are all going to Ghana. And these kids are just going to be so stinking excited when they get to just feel what a hockey stick feels like when they're playing ball hockey, and they don't even really have like street hockey pucks. They're just like making up their own nets with like cones and stuff. So um I also started a pro women's roller tournament to raise money and to represent Blader Skates Ghana so people can know who they are and know that, there's hockey outside of the United States, Canada. There's hockey all over the world. There's hockey in the Middle East. There's hockey in Africa. There's hockey in South America. There's hockey everywhere. And I've been fortunate enough to play overseas, and I've seen what it's like across the pond. And I think it's really cool. And I think we can all just come together to help each other. And that's really what gets me really excited. So I hope that I can get them these sticks, because holy, shipping sticks across the country is
Yeah, yeah.
not cheap, and I want to actually go out there to deliver them, but there's a lot going on. So we'll see how it works out. But I have the sticks in my garage like right now, just ready to go. It's dialed. Like
We,
I need to figure out how to get it over there.
we joke all the time in the hockey business. Freight is not fun.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll tell you this cool thing, Blake. I'm really blessed and fortunate. I'm heavily involved with the Puerto Rican Ice Hockey Association, and we have similar things to get equipment down to the island in the
Yeah.
Caribbean, and we do some amazing things in the sense. So when we get sticks, we'll check them in as baggage because it's actually cheaper to pay for them to check in as baggage than it is to actually mail them down there. And then the fun part of that is that someone has to deliver them, so you get that moment. But if there's anything, we'll say non-traditional hockey markets have taught me, the passion for the game is relative. I mean, it is the same anywhere. If anything, it's so refreshing when you go to a place where maybe there isn't ice. Like there's no ice right now in Puerto Rico. That we're changing that. But you get down there and they love that. They'll do anything to play. I recently coached a young lady from Brazil who the closest ice rink is 2 hours away. And she might get out there 4 or 5 times a year. I mean, it's a big deal when they can get out there. And we had her up here practicing with us every day. And man, you can feel the gratitude and the understanding. And it's great for our players too, because it gives them perspective on, what this means to other people, which you can forget pretty easily. And again, by no fault of anybody, it's not like you're not a bad person or anything like that, but if you're not living in those conditions or if you're not seeing it all the time, you're not going to understand it. I think that brings up an important conversation too. I always say 2 things to people. One is that everybody likes to say, I understand what it's like to be in that. It's okay that you don't understand. You don't understand. It's okay. I don't understand, right? That's okay. But you can have communication and conversation and learn. I think we're so quick to say, I get it. I understand what you've gone through. No, you don't. And that's okay. Like we have to get over that kind of thinking and just have great conversations like we're doing right now. So when you work with, Bladers Skate, I'm going to say that the whole episode, right? It's amazing, right? What that must open up conversationally and getting to share that experience.
Yeah, Bright Mensa, the founder, he's just been so thankful that we've been able to shed a light. He actually put an analytics of the growth that they've had on their social platforms and the followers and just the views and the eyes that they've been able to accrue over the course of a few months. And he's like, you have inspired me to dream and think bigger because I didn't think that this was possible. Now that you've been able to help us get a little bit further, now we want to make a rink. Now we want to be a part of the IIHF. Now we want to have our own African national team at some point, 10, 20, whatever years down the road. And imagine if whatever year that is, 2050, 60 or something like that. Like, what if there was an NHL kid from Africa?
Right.
How cool would that be? I told my husband that. I was like, what if like we could support that dream?
Right. Well, and it's not a real thing till someone says it either, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I'd like to ask both of you about that. The idea of, we don't know how big we can dream, right? And I think both of you have broken barriers in terms of what's possible in the game of ice hockey at every level, right? And I think that, from a representation standpoint, there's a lot of people out there that, look, I've always seen NHL players my whole life. I've always known that's a possibility for me.
Yeah.
That's not true for everybody. Can you guys talk about that for a few minutes?
Yeah, Hales, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I never really had those female hockey player role models. And that's why, I mean, I'm so passionate now to make sure that I can be that role model for these young girls so they can see what they can achieve. And I never take that for granted, honestly. Every interaction I have, I try to make them feel like seen and heard and let them know like what they can achieve later in life too. And yeah, it's just incredible. I remember being younger and not really having that. I only looked up to maybe soccer players. I think US women's soccer was up there, but for hockey, not much. Not much.
Right.
And so it's hard to know what you can do.
Yeah, and for me, I think my person was like Serena Williams and just that's tennis. I didn't even really know too much about soccer, but I always tell a big story when I was playing in the Canadian Women's Hockey League for the Boston Blades. I had Hillary Knight on my team, Brianna Decker on my team, Megan Duggan on my team. And there was this one little girl that had a poster with my name on it with glitter. And they would always get all the love because they're amazing athletes and Olympians, and people know who they are because they see them on the big stage every 4 years. And there wasn't a big, presence for women's pro or semi-pro or whatever you wanted to call it. And this girl had this poster and she said that you were the reason why I started playing hockey. And it just like bow and arrow through the heart, just like melted me. And I realized in that moment what a role model not only I am, but every single woman that's playing and that's carrying the torch and getting now what I think the PWHL is just where women's sports should be and are going to continue to be.
Yeah, what's so cool about the PWHL is that it's not just my daughter who watches; it's my son too.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of times that's part of the conversation that gets lost. Oh, it's a league for girls. Well, no, it's a hockey league. Period. Girls play in it, right? But you should want your kids to see this. It's the same thing with our show here too. Our girls play hockey. I remember when we started this. Haley, you'll laugh at this too. It's that's a show for girls. And I go, well, do you know a girl? And they go, yeah. I said, then it's a show for you too, right? It's not limited to just, it's a broader conversation that needs to happen. But like, I love that story you said. And it, when you're going through the grind, when someone says that to you, it's almost it's a welcomed, not a distraction. It's a welcome moment to show, wow, this really is paying off because especially when you're playing, I mean, not just playing, working. I mean, it is a grind. And you need those moments. Now, the only, I'll say this, I did get a chant when I was coaching in Europe, which is an honor. But the last poster I got was it was it was an alumni game, and a kid had a poster that said, "Bald is beautiful," and that's all it said. And it was for me. And I I did go over, take my hat off. For those of you listening who don't know, I am bald, and I took a picture with him. Maybe didn't inspire the same way. You're the reason I played hockey. Maybe the kid wants to be bald one day. I don't know. Okay, but I thought I'd share that. But no, joking aside, I'm not downplaying your story. That's an amazing moment. And you're right. The PWHL, the Olympic teams, the World Championship teams, you're all trailblazers all the time. You know, I've told the story on the show before about the '98 Nagano Olympics and seeing Cami Granado. And I was at an age that, you know, the men were really bad that year. She was a hero to me watching that Olympics, you know, and I'm very fortunate that I had grown up in a time, again, I was in my late teens at that point, but I grew up in a time where that was somewhat normal all of a sudden. Right. And that's what really opened up my eyes to it. And you're all trailblazing all the time. I don't want to keep monologuing here. I think it's the most amazing thing in the world. I can't thank you both enough for that and everyone involved.
Appreciate that, Lee.
Yeah. Haley, I'll stop talking. Clearly had a coffee before the episode today.
No, you're good. You're good. So Blake, a lot of younger players, especially girls from underrepresented communities, they don't really see a lot of players like them in the game. So what's your advice for making them feel like they belong and can thrive in those environments?
Oh, what's my advice to making them feel like they belong and can thrive in the environments? Well, I remember walking into a rink with my mom because, as I mentioned before, she was a single mom. Yes, she had a boyfriend that introduced me to the game, but I was her sole responsibility and I didn't have any siblings. So it was just me and my mom walking into these arenas by myself. And often we would get some stares. We would get some like, who are you from? Like, why are you here? And because my mother's boyfriend wasn't black, I guess, he would hear things in the stands that, maybe my mom or I wouldn't. And I would overhear them talking about it sometimes in the kitchen at dinner or whatnot. And sometimes they were really not kind things. And sometimes their kids were on the ice just echoing those disgraceful comments. And for me, I always like to respond on the ice. I always like to respond with goals, with performance, and with championships. And that's kind of how I progressed in the sport. Yes, not everybody's going to be an Olympic caliber athlete, but I loved the game and I sat with myself and I actually, because my mom was like, hey, Blake, if you don't want to play this, because it's just as much of a challenge for her as it is for me, as someone who wants to protect me and make sure that I'm happy and enjoying this game. She was like, we don't have to play this anymore. If you don't want to play hockey anymore, I'm totally fine. Like, I don't need to be coming into this rink. And I looked at her and I was like, yeah, but I don't think I would be happy with myself if I quit. I don't think I would be happy if I let my external environment control what I'm gonna do. And I think as elite athletes, especially Haley, as you know, there's always this control the things that you can control your controllables. And that is one, I love this game so much. Two, I'm not going to be happy with myself if I quit because that's just not in my DNA. And three, like, there's no proving anyone wrong. I'm just here and I'm making a presence and I deserve to be here. I deserve to carve out my own ice, my own path. And that took me some time to get used to. But once I finally kind of felt comfortable in that role, garnished the trust and the support of my teammates and my coaches, oh man, if anybody said anything about me on that ice, I had a whole pack of boys that were ready to throw down. And that gave me a lot of confidence and love that it's just undescribable. So I would say lean on the people that are rooting for you. Definitely open up to friends and family that support you and care about your well-being. And just really sit with yourself and say, would I be okay if I threw in the towel? And 9 times out of 10, you wouldn't be.
Mm. Yeah, that's what I was actually going to ask was like what maybe coaches and players on the team could do to make players feel more comfortable if they are a minority in that group. So you kind of touched on it, but if there's any other
Yeah.
little things and
Oh, well, I was one of two, Megan Bozek. She was
yes,
the other girl in our
right.
whole, was her and I. So there were two girls in the what was it, the Midwest Elite Hockey League AAA ice hockey. She was in Chicago. I was in Cleveland. So, she was a minority too. And she
Right.
were trying to go after her and headhunt her and hit her from behind. Like, that was just a part of my reality when I was playing boys hockey at that time. But instead of playing with fear, I just played into, all right, what's my game? What's my strategy? And my teammates were, yes, at first, when I tried out for the AAA boys Cleveland Baron team, they were like, who is this girl? But then after that, they respected me. That there was no color or gender. I was a part of the team, and I felt like, yeah, it was almost like a fraternity. Like, you had brothers for life, and they would, when you're stepping onto the ice, like, you're going to war for each other.
Mhm.
And that's what I felt when I was on the floor or on the ice. Now I say floor because I play hockey now.
You went either way. Here's another, like, pulling the thread on this a little bit. We talked a lot about the athlete in this scenario. What is your advice in the stands, right? You're a parent, you hear somebody say something inappropriate. Now, I'm curious on your stance on this, because I think a lot of people want to do something. Maybe they don't know how, maybe they're afraid, maybe they shouldn't, right? But if you do hear something in the stands, right, what do you think the approach should be from a parent or fan standpoint?
You know what really is cool? When the person that is I don't want to say the victim or is being talked about, if someone steps up and says, "Hey, that's not freaking cool."
Right.
I think that's really cool. I think that's really cool when you have parents that understand what's going on and you don't always have to be the one that's just got the shield on, that has to be the loud one, that has to be the angry one, or whatever you want to call it. That's why I think that, core values that are withheld in every arena, referees that actually uphold those core values are really important. And I think when it comes down to USA Hockey, sometimes it gets a little dicey. Like, I get a lot of scenarios and people that send, "Oh, this happened in my 10U, 12U, double A, B, whatever," and I'm just like, "This is nuts." And they'll report it, and sometimes nothing happens.
Right.
So I think it's just a part of knowing that you're a part of a team. Oh,
Oh,
that was a slammed door. Very
that's
windy.
okay. Everyone's okay.
You're a part of a team, and that it's really nice. Even when there was something like a George Floyd situation that happened in 2021 or 2020, I should say, everybody was coming to me, Blake, 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 Blake. It's like, I don't want to be the person that has to say everything every time.
Right.
Can we just stand up for each other?
Mhm.
Because that would make our world a way better place.
I love that, Blake, and I'll tell you this too. I agree with you. And just from my own personal experience, I remember like that was a hump for me to get over, because I would hear things and think, "Oh, that's stupid." But I made a decision a few years ago. I'm going to say something if someone says something inappropriate. Just like you said, like, it doesn't have to be an argument. I'm not trying to get in a fight, but just, "Hey, that's not cool. Please, what's up with that?" What's funny is when you do it, almost everyone's with you, right? And the person saying the thing, I don't think it's even so much about them. I think it's about everyone else seeing, like, this is not cool. Don't do this in our rink. Same thing in the locker room. Again, I was about to say I don't hear it too much in youth, but that would be untrue. I do hear things sometimes. If I hear it in a youth locker room, definitely going to say something. But even in an adult league locker room, I just can't sit there anymore.
Yeah.
And if they have a problem with that, that's their problem. But the only way to move forward is to do what you're saying, like, not cool, period.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's a one reason why the Player Inclusion Coalition exists with the NHL, is because a lot of players, like, they don't really understand that everything that they do and say has a sort of ripple effect.
Right.
And there are locker room ambassadors and captainships and people that are leaders by example, but also can just uphold a certain standard. And that makes our game just a lot better. And it starts at the top. It starts at the NHL. It starts at USA Hockey. It starts at Hockey Canada. It starts at the people that are at the top, and then it trickles down to youth hockey, to the referees, to the parents. What is acceptable? What's not acceptable? Here's your reprimanded, consequence if it happens, and that's it. Like, there are no excuses. You're either a good person, hockey player, player, or you're not.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also just, having great conversations and like we said earlier, like understanding you're not going to understand what it's like in anyone else's shoes or skates in this scenario, and sharing that experience with other people of, this is what I experience. And look, that could go for anyone. I'm not generalizing this to any one person or one position here, right? We don't talk enough. This actually goes beyond hockey. We just don't converse enough anymore and have great conversations to learn. Right. And it's just surrounded in assumption. It's surrounded in preconceived notions. And we really need to work to break through that. And you're obviously doing that work, and we applaud you for that, but it takes all of us. Right.
Yeah. Honestly, things don't really bother me anymore. The things that people say, especially being, I don't know, on television now, you got eyes on you all over the place. You got Twitter fingers, and sometimes I take a deep breath and I remind myself, remember when you were that little girl walking into your AAA tryout and you were so scared your dad had diarrhea and was throwing up before because he didn't want you to like get cut or be bullied. Yeah, you've been through some things. You can handle it. Like it's fine.
Mr. Bolden needs to come on the show and talk about that one. That could be a whole nother episode.
Blast, but he was so sick. He was like, "Oh my god, my girl."
You were like, "Chill, I got this."
Fine, it's fine. No, I'm terrified, but it's fine.
It comes with it. Haley, you got the next one.
Yeah. So you've had, you do grassroots level, pro levels on the sport. What are you looking ahead to? What gets you excited about where women's hockey and youth development are going? And especially with your work with the LA Kings and at that grassroots level, like how's that all looking?
I think statistically in USA hockey, women's and girls hockey is the fastest growing sport. And that's always really cool. Like just even being able to go back. I was just talking to Miles, my husband, yesterday about having a Cleveland camp every summer and just being able to go back there and inviting like a Kelly Stack or a Layla Edwards, as people who grew up in that area, to just be able to inspire, because I had to play boys hockey. There was no Lady Barons back in the day. And just so now that there is a Lady Barons, now that there are women's U18 teams, and it's just so cool to see how many people are playing hockey. And I think there's like a pivotal age of 12 to 14 where you drop off from the sport just in general. And that's what I want to see. I want to see girls not dropping off from sports, in all sports. Doesn't matter, ice hockey, soccer, tennis, basketball. That's why I partnered with Play It Again Sports to have my mentorship program. It wasn't just for hockey players. It was for all girls from 13 to 16 years old. It's like, just keep playing sports, because there was a t-shirt that I was wearing by Player Society. It said, girls who play sports become women who lead. And I truly think that is possible. Sports can teach you so much and can get you to the C-suite. It can teach you how to be a good teammate, a good person, how to overcome adversity. There's so many lessons. So I just think that if kids are playing sports, we're okay in the world. And it would be even better if kids can play sports and learn some really good values and characteristics of being a good human being.
Yeah, you're tapping on a wonderful point we like to make on all the episodes, right? Which we just did an episode recently talking about the thrill of fun, right? We had someone write into the show about how their daughter actually joined more of a rec league, and it totally reignited her flame for the game.
Yeah.
And the question came up, and it was a funny kind of discussion about, well, where's the developmental value in that? And we dove into it of like, it's not an unfair question, but who cares? She's having a good time. And look, there is developmental value in free play. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, man, we can't even have a discussion about fun without, well, how will they develop? How will this help the long-term plan? How is this going to give them the skill sets? And you're right. Like, that's why kids are quitting. It's not fun. The number one reason kids quit is that it's not fun. I mean, they're giving us the answer. Right. So the initiatives that you're doing and that mindset of, got to keep the game fun. And again, when you think about it, again, if you live in an area where there's a lot of girls teams, wonderful. That is just not the truth for everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And we have to find ways to maintain that fun in the game really forever. It doesn't. I think if you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong, right? Not consistently is what I'm talking.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if we're talking about development in general, you know how many brain synapses are happening when you're playing? If it's rec league, if it's house league, if it's B league, if it's men's league, women's league, doesn't matter. Like your brain is growing and evolving every time you do something like that, and the development is tenfold. It might not be in that particular moment,
Right.
but definitely a nugget that you can use further down the line in your life at some point.
Yeah. I got to ask you both this question too, since you brought up brain synapses and development. Anytime we have professional players on the show, I ask this question. There is an epidemic right now in youth hockey with, we'll just say, the development of hockey IQ. We won't dive into the reasons of what's happening, even though it's basically just everybody telling kids go from A to B without any kind of free thinking.
Yeah.
But like, how do we stop? But I'm gonna say this as a youth hockey coach. How do we stop players coming into the zone on offense, skating directly at the defenseman with the puck unprotected, directly at the D when they could have gone around? Why is that happening? How do we stop it?
It's happening because coaches are all about the McDavid stick handles and not realizing that not everybody is a McDavid or going to be a McDavid, because that's just genetically, physically impossible. And I think that there are a lot of unfortunate lessons that will be learned. Like our game is changing because of the coaching strategies and just the overkill of hockey in all freaking months of the year.
Yeah.
And it's not good. It's not good to play just hockey. Hockey is an athletic sport, but you know how much better you could be if you played tennis, how much more agile you would be if you played soccer, how much tougher you'd be if you played football. Like there's so many things that can help develop you into more than just a hockey player, but just an overall athlete. Like Hayley, like when we're freaking athletes. Like tell us what to do, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Pickleball, let's throw down. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I just think that there's just a lack of understanding, and things are more towards money
Mm-hmm.
and travel and coaches fees and just being the best at 12 years old, and that's just not realistic, and that's why kids are quitting. And I don't know about the going down and stick handling right at the D, but like that's not a good recipe for success, because you're gonna get lit up.
Right. And I always joke too, even McDavid goes around people.
Yeah.
Even McDavid protects the puck.
Yeah, he does. Oh my gosh,
Right.
slow motion. And I've been fortunate enough to be on the ice with him, and he is so aware, but that is a very small percentage of human that can do that.
The smallest.
Yeah.
I believe it's a 1-for-1 equation there. I did have the privilege one time. I won't say the name. I was interviewing a pretty high level NHL defenseman, and I asked him, "How do you defend against McDavid?" This gives a lot of context. He goes, "You can't."
Yeah.
Because there's no way. You hope for the best. He
Yeah.
comes in, you just hope for the best.
Yeah.
That's how unique he is,
Close
right?
your eyes and stay in between the dots.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope he goes left, because that's where I'm defending.
Yeah.
Right. Haley, I'd love for you to chime in on this as well,
Yeah.
just from a skill standpoint.
Yeah, in terms of the skills, I think, yeah, so many kids are focused on like being able to do the Michigan and all these like sick hockey skills you see on, social media and things like that. And it's like the game is so much more than that. Like
Right.
you need that hockey IQ piece. And I think, coaches can do that by having more creative games in their practices. It doesn't have to be these like set drills where they have to do X, Y, and Z. It's a game where they have to like think and use their teammates and, protect the puck and things like that. So I think really focusing on that piece is huge. And like Blake said, playing other sports is massive. I played soccer and tennis growing up as well. And you see a lot of the same patterns in soccer as you do hockey in terms of finding open space, working with teammates. It's all, when you really look at it, it's so similar. And it was such a nice way to get a break from hockey because it's a lot. And I think the burnout is definitely real for these kids because they feel like they have to do it all the time to stay ahead of the game, to stay ahead of the competition, supposedly. But little do they know, playing other sports will help them stay ahead of everyone
Yeah.
because it just works on so many different aspects and it definitely translates to the game, even though it's not directly hockey.
A litmus test that I always tell our listeners is, when was the last time your kid said, "Hey, when do I get to play hockey again?" Right? Because kids are playing, as you said, Blake, year round. Right? I'm not talking about, "Hey, I'm looking forward to going to practice." I'm saying, when are we back on the ice? When your kids take off for a season, I don't mean a regular season. I mean like the spring.
Yeah.
That will happen, and that reinvigorates the love. Or as a relative of mine said once, "I need to miss you right now." I thought that was very clever, right? Because that helps invigorate the love. If you do something all the time, you are naturally going to lose yourself at some point. And I'm not talking about professional hockey. Even professional players need breaks from
Yep.
time to time. You have to, right? I mean, you both could probably comment on that.
Yeah. Well, you see everybody when they're off from their NHL losing in the Stanley Cup, like, hey, I'm going to Malta. I'm going here. I'm going to a wedding. Like, they need breaks too. Everybody needs a break. Like, your brain is going to explode if you just keep going.
100%. So before we close this up, like, I want to ask you one more thing about, you have so much going on. I want to phrase this question like, what are you most excited about, or what's something coming that you can tell us about? Because you really are everywhere, and I love it.
Yeah. I don't feel like I'm everywhere. I feel like I'm in a really good flow, and it's a really cool place to be in because every avenue that I work in the game is something that I'm passionate about, and it helps me like switch it up, like I'll be on the ice with McDavid or someone like that, and then I'll be on the ice with a kid that's 3 years old that's never skated before, and I treat those equally, and I give them the same amount of passion. What am I looking forward to? Well, I'm excited about going to the Warrior Combine in August. I'm excited about getting my sticks out to Ghana. I'm excited about the Player Media Tour. That is me filming like 35 NHL players on ice for ESPN. Just over the course of a season, you'll see those sprinkled out
Wow.
throughout the season. And I'm excited for just pushing myself out of my comfort zone a little bit. I started Amazon Prime Hockey Night in Canada every Monday last year, and going into my second year where broadcasting's getting a little bit more familiar, whereas it was a little scarier before. And I've always been a proponent of doing things that are a little shaky just so you can grow a little bit. And I feel like I've grown exponentially. So I'm really excited to be more comfortable and more confident, maybe see Hayley a bit more. Maybe I'll do some PWHL broadcasting. Who knows? That would be sick. So I can wrap my arms around you, give you a nice hug. But yeah, someone was telling me, they're like, I love how much you love this game. And sometimes I'm like, am I crazy? Like, I'm a little bit crazy that I'm this obsessed with the game, but I
You're
don't
not
think
crazy.
I just think I've found my purpose and flow, and it just feels really natural for me.
I think one of the coolest feelings in hockey is when you're, let's just say, you're beyond your prime playing years, and you still get on the ice or you still do something, and you get off and you feel that love so immensely still. And I always love to tell children that too, like, it doesn't go away. If
Yeah.
you want it to stay, it'll stay. And I'll tell you two things, Blake. The hockey world's better for having you in it. And we do reoccurring guests. If you want to see Hayley all the time, you can come back on this show whenever you want. I'll put it that way. Hayley, any final thoughts before I close this out?
Oh, no, I just love you, Blake, and I'm just so proud of you and everything you're doing. And every time I see you on Instagram or TV or anything, I'm just like, oh, my girl. Like, I'm just so proud of you and just all the people you inspire. It's countless, truly.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm just very proud of you.
I'm proud of you too, Hales. I
Oh,
remember Buffalo pre-USA hockey and you crushing it that season, being like our leading goal scorer. And then look at you. You're like going to be a 5,000 time Olympic athlete. And I see you on Instagram doing the mohawks, doing the dirt. I texted her. I was like, dude, that looks miserable, but good for you. Good for
it
you.
was so hard. I'm like, I have not done this many mohawks in a while. And like, I'm trying to teach the kids, and it's this power skating camp. And oh my goodness, I'm like, guys, I don't know if I can do this one. It's like, you drop your knee, you go, and I'm like, just keep trying, keep trying.
Well, Blake, I'll echo that we're very fortunate to have Hayley on the show as well. So we fanboy and fangirl out here as well. But Blake, listen, again, audience listening, Blake's going to join us for a quick ride to the rink. So make sure your sons and daughters listen to that. But as we close this out, look, Blake reminds us that hockey is more than a game. It's a global language. It's a platform for change. It's a bridge to opportunity, one that she's taken. So whether she's mentoring the next generation, working behind the scenes, or bringing the game to new communities, she's leading with passion and purpose. And that's something we can all do. If you'd like to support her, support the Bladers Skate Ghana program. Learn more about Blake. Check out the links in our show notes. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, please send the episode their way. We got to share these conversations. That's what makes the hockey community so special. So thanks again for listening. Thanks to Blake Bolden for joining us. For Hayley, I'm Lee. We'll see you on the next episode of Our Girls Play Hockey. Take care, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.